Anyways, the word idolatry that we say in virtually every language outside of Hebrew is not the proper translation of the Hebrew phrase that means idolatry. In other words, in Hebrew, the word for idolatry is Avodah Zarah, which literally means foreign service or foreign worship. Foreign to what? Foreign to what appears in Torah. This is crystal clear, my friends.
Wait, didn't you say earlier?
Today's topic is very, very important. Today, friends, I'm going to show you why the religion known as Islam falls under the rubric for what is considered idolatry, Avodah Zarah, according to halakha.
I wish that Meza took the time to edit his video to see if he was arguing consistently. By failing to argue consistently, Asher has destroyed the argument he made for the first half of the video. All this time was spent making your argument that Islam is legally idolatry according to Judaism because it falls into the rubric of Avodah Zarah, a term you as well as 99% of all rabbis use as a conventional term for idolatry. Now, however, you say that Avodah Zarah is not simply idolatry, but anything that is foreign to Torah. You have made an argument and failed to be consistent in the use of your terms by changing the terms in the middle of the video. Can you imagine someone as an attorney defending a client accused of a pyramid scheme? First, he argues all these technical things like, my client didn't make false promises, he organized his network in such and such a way, etc. And then he says this, Your Honor, members of the jury, technically my client wasn't engaged in a pyramid scheme. If you look at the etymology of the term pyramid scheme, my client was not involved in one. You see, a pyramid scheme involves cheating people using pyramids. My client never went to Egypt, so how can you accuse him of such? Everyone in the court will laugh at you. Why? Because it is a bad argument to begin with, and not only because you redefined your terms in the middle of a trial, but because it does not matter what a term originally meant. What matters is the conventional use of the term, how people use it in a practical manner with legal consequences and limits of proper discourse. Now, if what Asher says is the case, you can simply have said that all along. Islam is Avodah Zarah because it is different from Torah or contradicts certain doctrines of Judaism. You have made everything you said previously irrelevant by equating Islam with idolatry. Now Islam is bad according to you because it is essentially not Judaism. Let's delve a little deeper into Asher's redefined term. First of all, there are multiple definitions of Avodah Zarah, just like there are of many other terms. I already gave the example of a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme has a legal definition that has to do with creating a marketing network based on false premise, and having people join and paying money with the result that the network becomes so big it collapses. Amway is referred to as a pyramid scheme by most people, but it is legally not, since it has a legitimate product. It may function like a pyramid scheme in almost every sense, but it is not one. Take Orthodoxy as an example. Colloquially, it means people who are committed to halakha and are part of the Orthodox community. To academics, Orthodoxy refers to a particular approach to Judaism which began with the Chassam Sofer as a reaction to the reform movements. Avodah Zarah is used in so many different ways that it would be a waste of time to delineate a precise definition of the term. In everyday language, most people will use Avodah Zarah as another word for idolatry. Asher acknowledges this. Now, some people in the Haredi world will refer to anything non-Jewish as Avodah Zarah. That's a very loose way, even if it has nothing to do with idol worship. People who would call anything Avodah Zarah have a worldview characteristic of religious fundamentalism. A comparison with Islam, you would see extremists refer to everything they don't like as shirk, and refer to their enemies as kafir even if there's no legal basis for doing so. I did my best to find a rabbinical source that defined Avodah Zarah in the way that Meza does, and found only one. There's a website called mezora.org. mesora.org, run by Rabbi Moses Chaim. He said that Avodah Zarah relating to God through methods foreign to God's prescribed mode of worship. This is a definition similar to Asher's, but a little more clear. Note that this Rabbi Moses Chaim also has an extremist ideology. Not only does he dismiss Christians and Muslims as idolaters, he also dismisses most Orthodox Jewry as such because they follow the Kabbalah. The last point I want to make is that Asher, as well as this other rabbi, defined Avodah Zarah in such a way that is too vague. Anything that is foreign to Torah is Avodah Zarah. Is not any and all heresy also foreign to Torah? Isn't it heresy to worship God through a manner not prescribed by the Torah? I would define heresy and give it a definition of anything that is foreign to Torah. Same definition that Asher and the other rabbi gave. Furthermore, what do you mean by Torah? Do you mean the written Torah, the Chumash, or Torah Shebechtav, or Torah Shebal Peh? Or do you mean Torah, do you mean a historic or current consensus that involves rabbinical interpretations? The problem, as you can see, is that the word Torah itself is vague in Jewish discourse. For Asher, who is a radical rabbi and throws Jewish sages under the bus, Torah is anything he wants it to be. What is important to us in understanding any idea like Avodah Zarah is only how the sages throughout the ages and how modern poskim use the term. When discussing Jewish law, the rabbis have always used Avodah Zarah as a rubric for idolatry. All the laws associated with Avodah Zarah are clear and precise and not based on vague terminologies. Remember Asher's argument about separating Rambam's opinion from Chazal? Rambam literally wrote the book on Avodah Zarah, as you can see in his Avodat Kochavim in the Mishnah Torah. Check out the first 2 chapters that lay bare the ideology and historical development of Avodah Zarah. Rambam says, and Asher quotes this too, that worshipping idols is the essence of Avodah Zarah. You will have to throw out Rambam too if Asher is right on this one.
If it demands the same, then it could very well be the same God. However, as you already know, that by eliminating the vast majority of our laws, claiming that our source texts are corrupted, replacing our holy sites, and using a completely different prayer liturgy, and fueling the most violent form of religious extremism this world has ever seen.
Is Avodah Zarah simply anything Asher wants it to be? We already talked about the authenticity of the Torah according to the Rambam, and how there is a difference between simple heresy and Avodah Zarah. I wonder if Asher Meza accuses the Reform and conservative movements of Avodah Zarah because they deny the divinity of some, if not all, of the 5 books of Moses and the oral traditions. Now, using a complete different liturgy makes Islam Avodah Zarah. I found this funny because our rabbi is being very subjective. Could a Sephardic Jew find the Ashkenazi rites to be Avodah Zarah because they sound different? Never mind the Yemenites who prostrate on their faces when they go into prayer. Kind of reminds me of something, right? Hey, the Karaites don't even recite Shemona Esrei. Do you think Moshe Rabbeinu was davening mincha and benching after meals? No, of course not, because the Jews had a temple to worship at during that time, and the Jewish liturgies we have today were invented by rabbis the time after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Maybe Moshe Rabbeinu would accuse you of Avodah Zarah. And religious extremism. Ignore the fact that this is subjective and that there are no laws for that in the Talmud. We already saw what you said about selling land to Gentiles. Now what are your views on Judaism and religious pluralism?
Why? Again, because Torah Judaism is not supposed to create for itself or tolerate competitors.